Hello and welcome to Rotted Reviews, and today it's time for another Rotted request as I hand the keys to the car over to my patrons and have them take me on the journey. And today's movie selection comes to us from Patron Jaki, who asked me to take a look at the 1988 movie, The Brain. When I asked Jaki why this movie in particular, she only said that it was way more entertaining than she expected. I was honestly delighted to see this movie get picked for a few reasons. I hadn't ever actually seen it before, but I have seen the poster and the box art at the VHS aisles in my youth many times, and it always kind of intrigued me. It was always one of those ones that captured my eye and made me wonder what this movie was all about. But somehow it's always been off my radar as far as actually watching it. Additionally, I've had a lot of people put in requests for reviews for 80s movies lately. It seems that the decade of Aquanet and Duran Duran is getting a little bit more traction these days, and I have definitely heard the voices requesting these kind of videos get a little bit louder every day. So, the 1988 movie, The Brain. Finally sat down and watched it after so many decades of putting it off, and what I found about this movie is that it is an absolute 80s cheese fest delight. Directed by Ed Hunt and written by Barry Pearson, this movie stars Tom Bresnahan as Jim, a wild youth that has more brains than wisdom and often uses his greater intellect for the purposes of mischief rather than homework. After a prank involving a sodium block and a toilet goes awry, he faces one last-ditch effort to avoid getting suspended from school, and that is to get evaluated by Dr. Anthony Blakely, played by the indomitable David Gale. The good doctor is not only a researcher for the institute that he is a part of, but he is also the head of a TV show that is reaching out to the community with psychological advice called Independent Thinkers. Unfortunately for Jim, the entity behind the doctor that is furthering his research is a gigantic man-eating brain. So I have to say, after having watched this, I am in absolute agreement with Jaki. This was way more entertaining than I was expecting, and there were several elements of it that I liked. Make no mistake, this is it's not bad, but it is cheesy. Whatever you're expecting in terms of big foam latex petroleum jelly covered monsters and 80s cheese is fully present in this movie, but there were some elements of it that did make it stand out and stand above. I generally like the idea of having a protagonist that has some intelligence behind him, and the idea of having this kid that's too smart for his own good and gets into rebellious trouble as a result of it made for an interesting counterbalance to an enemy that is essentially a big brain.
I'm a gigantic brain!
Most ungentlemanlike.
Additionally, David Gale playing the good doctor was everything that you could hope for in his performance and more. I'm not going to say that his role in this, nor the movie in its entirety, holds a candle to the Reanimator counterparts respectively, but even so, I did find this to be a wonderful little hidden gem from the late 80s that just proved to be just fun. There were tons of little technical ticks and mistakes that constantly popped up, but I think that only added to the charm. For whatever issues that this might have had on a technical level, it more than made up for it by having some really decent monster effects. While not really breaking any new ground and showing us anything revolutionary, the special effects in this movie were a delight from a 80s practical effects standpoint, and there's that side of me that will always fawn over a big 6-foot-tall monster standing in a room physically with the actors. I think if I were to try to spell out what the issues with this movie really were, it's that it kind of finds itself in an odd in-between place. It's not so bad that it can fall under the good-bad movie category, nor is it good enough to actually just be called good on its own with a full blanket recommendation. Instead, it kind of falls into this weird place of really a delight as long as you're in a very specific 80s mood. But from the sound of it and the emails that I've been getting, that is more and more of us as we attempt a little bit of a reality escape with just some silly fun times. And if that's what you're after, then yes, I do absolutely recommend the 1988 movie The Brain. Thank you so much, Jaki, for recommending this one for me, and thank you for watching this video. I do hope you liked it. If you did, please click that button down below, as well as subscribe if you're not already. It really would help me out a whole lot. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.